I wanted to have this keynote conversation with this next guest because I'm such a huge admirer of her extraordinary work, some of which breaks me in two and breaks me open, like When They See Us, some of which makes me think deeply and moves me in my spirit, like Origins, some of which lifts me up and invigorates my sense of this community that I always wanted to be a part of, which is the civil rights community, like Selma. Some of which makes me just see how absolutely beautiful we are, like Queen Sugar and so many of her other ventures that always show us being who we are in our full selves. Ava DuVernay is an Academy Award nominee, winner of an Emmy, BAFTA, Sundance, Image, and Peabody Awards. Her feature film directorial work includes the historical drama Selma, which was the first film directed by an African-American woman to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture. Did y'all know that? Many of you know of her documentary, 13th, about the 13th Amendment and its relationship to mass incarceration, which made her the first African-American woman to be nominated for an Oscar in a feature directing category. Oh my gosh, I forgot about Disney's A Wrinkle in Time, which made her the highest grossing Black woman director in American box office history. You've only been at this for a minute. That's the thing that's crazy, okay? Her critically acclaimed limited series, When They See Us, I've never seen anything like it before or since. And, you know, it's one of those things, I think about it at odd moments for just no good reason. So beautifully done. She wrote, produced, and directed all the episodes, received 16 Primetime Emmy nominations. We know about Queen Sugar. If you haven't seen Middle of Nowhere, I love that movie too. First Black filmmaker to be awarded the top prize at Sundance, is that right? Something like that, yes. She's trying to be shy, I don't care. DuVernay amplifies the independent work of people of color and women of all kinds through her nonprofit change collective Array, winner of the 2021 Peabody Institutional Award. She sits on the board of governors of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Were you on when the Moonlight thing happened, when that happened? Whew. Representing the director's branch in her second term, her most recent feature film, Origin, which is based on Isabel Wilkerson's amazing book, Cased, is now streaming on Hulu. Ladies and gentlemen, Ava DuVernay.
Thank you so much. That's kind. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for being here as well. You know, it matters that you have been doing this for a relatively short period of time and you have developed a body of work that is impossible to ignore, that is profound, that is groundbreaking, and that is, you know, you are an excellent filmmaker. Like, technically speaking, your films are beautiful. That's one part of it. But you're also telling stories that are so important, so profound, and so connected to the issues that I work on every day, whether it's Middle of Nowhere and thinking about incarceration, whether it's 13th, whether it's Selma. All of these issues are so important to questions of democracy, of citizenship, of Black people as full, free people in this country. And I'm really curious about that journey for you, because to be a filmmaker, you had to first master filmmaking, and then to take on these subjects that are rich, deep, some difficult and complex, and to decide this is going to be your, you know, your body of work, that's pretty damn ambitious. And that means that you have a lot of confidence, but I'm also curious about just kind of how you came to that. Because if I were gonna start being a filmmaker, I would start with like some commercials. I would do you know what I'm saying? I would do like an episode of like a soap opera. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I would begin there. And you just jump right in and say, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get ready to do this whole epic civil rights thing and I'm gonna get an Academy Award. Like, what is that all about? Tell me, how did you come to that?
Wow. Well, I have to start and say that I feel at home here. And you just started this. And yes, it's Howard, and I've had the occasion to be on the campus many times, and I love being on university campuses, and Howard is special. And maybe 2 months ago, I came to Howard Law and just loved the second floor when you walk down the hall and you see the black and white pictures of the classes, the class pictures. But there's something, when I say I feel at home here, I mean being around you. Because whether I'm at dinner with you with friends, or whether I'm interviewing you in the law library, or sitting on stage with you, you put me at ease because I feel that you are authentic, you are your whole self, and you're bringing that to this, and you've always brought it to this, and we feel safe with you and proud of you in ways that are hard to articulate. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And this 14th Amendment Center is going to be just wonderful. And if this today is any indication of what it lies in store, we're in for a treat. So look at your husband. He loves you. He loves you. He's tearing up. He loves you. I love it, girl. When I started doing this, I'll say no, I did not set out to master the craft, because the craft of film is not traditionally one that privileges people like me, women and black folk. And so those tools and the way that that industry works and the way that even a set works is completely in contrast to who I am and the way that I work and what I want my environments to even feel like. And so while, yes, some of the tools need to be used, I did not seek to master that, because I don't want to master that way of doing it. For me, I prioritized what I wanted to say first, not necessarily the way that it would be said to look like the way that Hollywood makes things. So I really steeped myself in independent cinema and tried to just focus on, I figure even if the film doesn't look great, if it moves you, if it's saying something. I mean, I've seen a whole lot of films like that. You know what I mean? And so it was a walk towards the meaning being prioritized over the mastery of the craft, I'd say. And yeah, just started to walk towards it little by little. I didn't go to film school, started making films when I was 32.
You'd been a publicist?
I'd been a publicist before, so I'd been working as a crew member. You know, all those names you walk out on at the end of a film. For those of you who still go to the movies.
Grip.
Yeah, what'd you say?
The grip.
The grip. Everybody wonders what a grip is. Yes, I was down there, a publicist in the crew, and so just loved the fact that I got to make movies as a crew member, and never thought that I would be the one calling action or the one writing it or the one producing it or signing everyone's checks or any of that. And so it was a step-by-step process, which I've come to understand is the best part of the journey, are the steps, not necessarily the destination. And so you're here today. Does it feel like the destination that you're here on the opening of this, or is this one of the steps? You've been taking a lot of steps. I know. This is the first step. You feel like, I know, but all the steps to get to this step, there's some steps there.
Yes, yeah, lots of steps. Yes, you're
Lots
right.
of steps.
But this feels like the first major step,
Okay.
right? Because once we open and we're launched,
Okay.
now when I call people up and say, we're getting ready to do this at the foot, y'all know what I'm talking about. And so y'all gonna show up.
Yeah. Okay. There's something about that. I always say there's something about being on a moving train. Like people will talk to me about, oh, how do I start making films? Or I'm looking for money for my films. And I say, you know, you just got to start. Because if you're on the platform at the train station and somebody's like, look, there's going to be a train that's coming tomorrow. It's going to have a bed and all the food you want. It's probably going to come tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow night or the next day. Or this one, where you just sit there with a bag of sunflower seeds and just get there. Which one do you choose? Most people will be like, let's just go. Let's just get there. If you come with the enthusiasm and say, we're going now. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of you. Yeah. I just heard you say, hey, we ain't got no money. We're just going to go now. We're just going to go now. We're just going to start.
Why wait?
Why wait? That's the thing.
I think once you say you're doing it also, when you say you're doing something, I'm sure this happens with you in a film, once you say you're doing it, you know, if you're a person of integrity, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
You have to do it.
Yes.
And so my thing was at some point when we picked, because I was delaying the date, you know,
Yeah.
of the opening, because we didn't have this and we didn't have, and I
Yeah.
said, look, these are the dates. It's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen.
That's right.
But what's going to happen is we're going to launch this thing, okay, as best as we can. And I hope people will come,
Yes.
and I will expend the capital I hope I have developed,
Yeah.
you know, that will convince people to come, and that they will know that I would not ask them to come to something that's mess.
Yeah.
That's all I can do.
That's right. That's right.
That's all you can do.
That's
so
what
you,
it
So
is.
you decide to
The
start.
same way.
I mean, so you did. I think Middle of Nowhere was before Selma, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Middle of Nowhere. I don't know how many of you have seen that film. So beautiful.
It's a little bitty
beautiful.
film. Little bitty film.
It's not that little. It's actually really powerful, really beautiful. And you discover some people in that film. Who's the actress in Middle of Nowhere who I just love? Her name is
Imiazzi Corinaldi. She's the star of Reasonable Doubt. now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love her.
Lawyer. Isn't she a lawyer in that show?
She is a lawyer in that show.
Hey, happy to contribute.
She is. I saw the first 4 or 5, and then it got a little too racy. I don't know. Anyway, so
It is. I don't. It's not my show. But David Oyelowo.
Yes, that's
it was
right.
the first time I worked with him, and he played Dr.
yes,
King.
Yes. So I want to talk just for a minute about Selma, just because, you know, it's an epic film, right? I mean, you know, we grew up, my sister and I, we grew up watching epics, you know, Ben-Hur, you know, The Robe, you know what I mean? We did epics, 10 Commandments, The Sea Opens, all that stuff. Those are epics.
Yes.
But I actually think of this as an epic film also because so many of these, what we think of as moments during the civil rights movement are really epic, you know? They have a full arc of a story. They involve almost like a natural disaster, you know? And this was that. And so to me, this seems like an incredibly ambitious project because there had to be so many people to simulate, you know, the march and to involve, there had to be location shots. There had to be so much. And I just wonder, as you knew what you wanted to say, but then you have to do the project of it. Did you have a team right at the beginning, or were you picking up people along the way and saying, they'd be great, let's put on a show? Or did you know that I need all of because from my years in the industry, if I could get this team, we can make it work?
Well, my producing partner Paul Garnes was by my side through the whole thing, and but I was really we were brought into the project by David Oyelowo. So David had been cast by the director before. I was the 7th director on the project.
What?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
7 other directors had been on and then had either been let go or left, primarily because they only had $20 million to make the movie. That sounds like a lot of money, and it sounded like a lot of money to me at the time. So I was like, $20 million? Middle of Nowhere was $200,000. Wait, you're gonna give me $20 million to make this movie? Absolutely. When all the 6 directors before me were like, little girl, you can't make this movie for $20 million. Like, it's not makeable. It's a period piece, so you can't go out. Every car has to be brought in. Every street light has to be changed. Every sign has to be changed. Like, you cannot just go out and make a movie. It's top to bottom. Everything has to be redone, brought in, and the money just gets higher and higher. It was a huge cast.
It was.
It was extras, you know. It was the scene on the bridge. There's horses. There's stunts. There's gunfight. There's a White House. I mean, $20 million. Like, it's gone. But we made it work, and it was because David Oyelowo said, you have all of these people leaving this movie because no one feels that they can make it on $20 million. You need to bring in someone who has made things on a lot less. Bring in this independent filmmaker. I just worked with her. She just won Sundance. It's this black woman. And at that point, they were just like, child, if somebody can do it, it's like 6 other people. And that's really
Wow,
how
I
it
did
came to
not
be.
know
And
that.
so yeah, we got down there. No one in the film was a big name, but you look back at the cast now.
You're a finder. You're
I think
a
I'm
finder.
a little bit of a finder.
She found my boyfriend Coleman Domingo.
Yes, love.
I just want to be best friends with him. I really feel like a dinner. Will you tell him? I would like to have dinner with him. My husband knows. He knows all about it. I just want to have dinner. He's so fun. What?
Next time you're in Los Angeles, we will have dinner with Coleman Domingo. I promise.
We're getting things done in this center. We're getting things done.
We will make that happen.
But
and he's as fun and fantastic as you think.
You can
He's
tell.
so great,
What?
so great. But it was Coleman, it was Tessa Thompson, it was
Yes,
David,
Tessa
of course,
Thompson, yes.
it was Lorraine Toussaint, it was
Yes.
Keith Stanfield,
Yes.
Wendell Pierce, Rubens. I mean, it was
I
just.
mean, you've seen these people other
incredible.
places, but that was the one where they were all, I was like, it was like a Ocean's 11 of just like black
At
talent.
the time,
It was
now you look at
now,
it.
yeah.
But
yeah.
then, and so there was just a bunch of people no one knew, and there wasn't with the studio to start with. It became something that Paramount picked up, and it was really the power of Oprah. Oprah joined it. I said, can you just come do 3 scenes? And I didn't know her at the time at all. David knew her, and so she came and she did the 3 scenes, and she put her name
How do you
on the
direct
movie.
Oprah?
Woo, it's not. I've directed her twice now.
Wow.
Well, now it's different because we're more like family. But at the time,
But in the beginning, did she do what you said?
No, because she's Oprah. So
That's what I'm saying.
you feel like you know her because you know her.
Because she's been in your house.
She's been in your house. You've been raised, whatever, and she just shows up as that and completely open and completely kind, and so she makes you comfortable.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my God, I love that film. And then you had the song "Glory" from John Legend, which took it to the next level.
Yes.
We still remember that Academy Awards ceremony when they won. If he had done one more round, they would have had to open up the doors of the church. Remember? Because everybody was laid out because we were mad about the awards and all that stuff. So there was a lot of emotion. There was a lot of emotion in the room. I remember.
They were crying.
That was great. So there's Selma. There's 13th, and I want to talk about 13th a little bit because, you were in my class a couple months ago, and you could hear that a lot of my students had seen 13th, and especially young people, I think, were very much moved by what they learned from that film. And that also, what to me seemed like, it's very complicated. It's very complicated. And so again, the ambition of taking that on seemed really important. I wonder what drew you to it and what made you really want to do that project.
Yeah, I think I've just been thinking, at that time I was thinking a lot about it, and even more now, just about how cheap information is. Like, information is cheap and fast, and it's not necessarily truth. Truth is intimate. It's deeply felt. It's something that you see, you hear, you have to experience, and it's not a shared journey. And so much of what I was hearing around criminalization and the prison industrial complex, and it was so in contrast to what I had felt growing up in Compton, and knowing people who were there one day and just weren't there the next day and were not coming back for what, why, what happened. That's an intimate, deeply emotional process. So my truth around prison and criminalization was something that was much more emotional than anything that I had really seen. And I think to help people tie the fact that prison isn't just a place where bad people go, which is what a lot of people think, to the history of African American people and what has been done here, was the goal of it, to try to thread that together. And I knew that nobody wanted to watch that. So I just tried to make it as fast as possible. It's 100 minutes, no more. And it feels kind of pop culture-y. You're going through it, just one thing to another so quickly that it washes over you, a wave of emotion by the end. You've gotten information, but the hope is that it feels like truth because it feels intimate and you feel connected to it personally. And so that was the goal. And Netflix at the time literally just said, sure, go over there and do it. And there was a lot of support, but the best kind of support I like, which is give me the money and then leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they did that. And so it was this kind of a surprise hit. And more than anything, it's when I travel around the world, because it is Netflix.
Yeah.
And because Netflix is seen in 190 countries around the world in your local language, you can be wherever and see it. So many people have, I'm aghast at it, but people will tell me they've learned about African American history through 13th. It's like, please don't say that. It's hardly enough in it. But it's an entryway for people, and I've heard it in almost every country I've gone to, and that's the project that continues to come up. It was more widely distributed than Selma.
Wow.
Then more people have seen it than all 7 seasons of Queen Sugar.
Wow.
It's 13th is the one.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing. Beautiful film, painful but beautiful, and something I never could have done, because I don't mean that I'm a filmmaker. I just mean what you just said about like doing it fast and keeping it pop culture-y. And, you know, I remember when I was writing about lynching, and I was so stressed after several years of writing, and I told my sister, there's just so much more I need to say, you know, because I wanted to write the ultimate tome that would be about lynching forever. And she said, sweetheart, anybody's not trying to read all that about lynching. So,
Only your sister can tell you that.
and that's what you mean. It's like you have to put it in an accessible form that people can receive it, and they will feel the emotion of it. They'll get the information, but you know, sometimes it's not worthwhile to do the whole
We're
thing.
wrestling with that now. My producer partner, Tammy Garnes, and I are here, and we're learning so much today. We're working on a documentary about things that might be tangential to what's being discussed here, and we're just, I mean, I feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because I want to put it all in. You know what I mean? And I'm going to remember your sister's words.
Yeah.
Honey, ain't nobody trying to hear
all of that.
Let me put that to memory. All that.
Famous Black advice.
That's
Ain't
right.
nobody trying to hear all that.
But yeah, you distill it down, and the hope is that it sparks interest. It's a spark. It's a trigger for someone to want to learn more. I mean, we've certainly experienced that. You see something, you start to Google, you want to read the book, you want to go further. That was a bit of what I experienced when I read Isabel Wilkerson's Cast.
Yes.
I struggled through the book the first time. I got through it the next time, and I wanted to know more. Is that true? Is that real? You start Googling, you start going further, and so hopefully, you know, what we do can be a spark for more.
I hope so. I hope so. So let's talk about Cast since you raised it. Now, you started making that film during the pandemic. Is that right?
I read the book.
Was in it somewhere. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The book came out in 2020. Yeah.
But then weren't you starting to talk about making the film during the pandemic? There was something.
Yeah, I mean, well, the pandemic, the book came out in 2020, and I had...
maybe it was 2021, because we weren't finished at that point with the pandemic. We were just beginning to open a little bit.
So a couple of years afterward, 21, I think it was announced. And so, it's the pandemic. I had lost someone very close to me in the first 2 months of the pandemic. I'm in my house. I lived alone. I'm a wreck, you know. I'm the only... You know, I'm talking to family on the phone, everyone's quarantined, and I'm like watching D Nice on Instagram. You know what I mean? I'm just like trying to hold on.
Listen, thank God for Versus.
That's right, exactly. And then we have, you know, the murder of George Floyd, and it was a tough year. And so then this book comes out, and people were telling me, you got to read the book, Child, the last thing I'm trying to do is read a book about Cass this year, right now. And so I put it off quite a bit, and then finally, it was a very, very, very well-known director, big name director. Like when you think director in your head, most people in the world will think of his name, said to me, I heard you were making Cast into a movie. It's like,
who told him that?
I don't know. I haven't even read the book yet. I've got like 5 copies from people sending it to me.
Oh, that's Jesus.
And so I was like, well, let me go on and read it. And I read it, and I thought, and I instantly knew how to make it in a very untraditional way.
What?
And so then I cold called her, and she said,
Did that director have on a flowing robe and have a beard and some long? That sounds like a visit from an angel.
It might be.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So you knew exactly how you wanted to make a film on 3 continents.
I knew how I wanted to make a nonfiction book about a
phenomenon,
a sociological theory and phenomenon into a narrative film with actors as a story. That transition is not usually done, so it's a little bit difficult. But the idea came to me pretty quickly, and that's what you see on it. It's basically, you know, I wanted to make a film about this book because I knew that people would be like me. I'm not trying to read a book about Cass, but I wanted folks to know what was in it. So you follow the author as she writes the book. As she learns, you learn. And as she was writing the book, she had a very tumultuous, tragic, triumphant personal life that was happening at the same time. So those run together, and that's Origin. I think out of all the films I've made, it's my least seen film, but it's the one I'm the proudest of.
I sense that.
Yeah.
I sense that.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like I could feel that there was that there's something about that feels very, very intimately special to you.
Yeah, it is.
You can feel it. You can feel it in the film. It's really quite beautiful. You can.
It's on Hulu if anybody wants to watch it.
It's a lot of care. It's a lot of care in the film. You should watch it. So that brings me now back to kind of, again, like thinking about all the subjects that we've been talking about since last night, and that I've been talking about with my students all semester, and any of your films, we are going to have a 14th Amendment Film Festival, and any of your films could be shown in that film festival, right? And because they all are just dealing with all of these subjects about who are we, in this country, out of this country, what are the constructs that are created to hold us in a certain kind of place and to tell a story about us. None does it with as much sweeping emotion as When They See Us. And it's a hard one for me to recommend for people because you really do have to watch the whole thing, and so you have to commit, I could not stop watching it. And I was in New York at the time. I was a civil rights lawyer, so I knew a lot about what happened with the Central Park Five. But this was the other side, right? This was from the perspective of the young men. And when I say it, it broke my heart. Like normally I watch things over and over again. That's not one of them that I have the ability to do that with because it's so devastating. And, I think about that film as one that pulls on so many different threads of what we are confronting and dealing with in this country. And so once again, I feel like you're creating the 14th Amendment Film Festival, and so I'm trying to understand the arc of of the story that you're telling, because each of these are things that are part of this larger thing. But is there in your mind, is there an arc of a story that you're trying to tell? Or are you saying, oh, I want to deal with this next, or I want to deal with this next? Or are you doing 13th and saying, you know what, I need to do a film about young men who are caught up in the criminal justice? Are they feeding off of each other, or how are you coming to this? Because they feel coherent to me in a way that's not apparent from the films themselves, but to me feel like they're telling a story, and I wonder if that is true.
Thank you for that. No, I mean, maybe it's the man in the white robe or something, or the woman in the white robe, because I'm really just following what I'm interested in, and I guess I'm a big nerd. I mean, there's been no design. I've done this, now I'm interested in this, I'll do this. It has been a feeling that has struck me that this is my story to tell, and I'm the one to tell it. It's my responsibility, I'm gonna do this. At times, to be honest with you, maybe between 13th and When They See Us, I made A Wrinkle in Time.
Oh, that's right.
Somewhere in there, and through all of it, I was making Queen Sugar. That was 7 seasons across all the films that you said. I thought, I'm gonna get pigeonholed, and Hollywood is gonna put me in a box, and I can do all kinds of things. I can do a thriller, I can do a mystery, I can do action, I can do all those things. And I really felt, I don't want to be civil rights girl. I don't want to be social impact girl.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, well, when you're a lawyer, it's not anything wrong with it, but I struggled with that for a bit. And I think in my TV work, I did a superhero show called Naomi. I did a DC Comics thing called DMZ for HBO Max. I did some reality shows.
What reality show did you do?
I did a reality, well, of course, my reality shows are social impacting. I can't help it. It was a show called Home Sweet Home. It was on Peacock. I loved this show.
What was it?
4 people saw it. And it was during the pandemic. I pitched it during the pandemic because I was, it was in my house and I was wondering what other people were doing in their house.
Oh, that's good.
So I pitched to NBC, it's a house swap, but it's not a wife swap. It's full families switch with another family. So a Sikh family switches with a Mormon family. The Mormon family lives in their house.
The only thing that's switching is the house.
Only thing that's switching in your house, and you have to do all the things that family does. So you have to go to their school, you have to go to their services.
It's a life switch.
You have to talk to their neighbors, you have to do all of those things, and so it was.
Are the houses comparable?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because I'm not trying to be just.
It wasn't a mansion to the what?
I'm not trying to move into the house with the 1 bathroom.
No, because it wasn't about the house. It was about the
life.
The life. Yeah. So they were comparable, but anyway.
We'll look for it. Home Sweet Home, ladies and gentlemen. Look for it.
Okay. All to say, I tried a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to Origin, I came to, this is what I love. This is what I want to do. This is what I feel called to do. Whether my next film is, I don't know, it could be about anything. I'm not gonna pigeonhole myself, but I'm also not going to beat myself up for the things that I like and I'm interested in. So there hasn't been an actual rhyme or reason to it, but they are, I'll hear an idea, or I'll, when they see us happen, because I was, on Twitter a lot, and Raymond Santana slid into my DMs and said, would you ever consider making a film about the Central Park Five? And I was like, who's this? And I was like, are you one of the Central Park Five? Yeah. That's exactly what happened. And he said yes. And I said, next time in New York, can I come and see you and talk with you? And I did. And then he took me to see another one. And by the end of the trip, I had met 4 out of the 5. And then I flew to Atlanta to meet the 5th one. And I was like, I got to do this. So, and that's just someone, someone talked about a book that I had been supposing to need to read, and I hadn't done it. The other day, someone said an idea to me, and I hear all these ideas all the time. I'm getting pitched, I'm getting scripts, I'm getting all kinds of things. But someone said something to me, and I was just like, wow. I had like little tingles. So that happens now and then.
I got to think about my pitch, y'all.
That happens now and then.
But if you do another civil rights film, can I just be like in a pillbox hat, the secretary in the back says, Mr. Marshall's office.
Yes.
Please,
yes.
please.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk a little bit just about the industry that you're in and telling stories.
Yeah.
It seems to me always that like you, at least nowadays, you much rather be on Netflix than have a theater release, just because more people are going to see your film. You can just tell me that I'm wrong, but this is what it feels like on the outside, that you have more opportunities for people to stream, and so they're going to see the work. Or is it better to have a theatrical release because it gives you more attention in terms of the film getting awards and that kind of thing? But for us, for the kinds of stories that it turns out you enjoy telling and that we care about deeply, what is the best form for you, do you think, in getting those stories to the people that you want to see them, which is everyone, but I think you want us to see them also. What is the best medium for, in your sense of where the industry is right now?
Yeah, I think it depends on the picture. I mean, I think, I think about impact. I think about, in order to have impact, it doesn't necessarily need to be seen by, the whole world. To be seen by a small group of people and to resonate in a certain way is an impact that I embrace. I feel that way about Origin. It's not been widely seen, but the people who see it, I get very strong reactions from it. It'll make its way around. I think more than anything, I think of something like, I think of the kinds of projects that I know have had a resonance and an echoing through the culture in a way that has shifted culture. They've come in all forms. You look at Roots. At the time that it comes out, there had been no depiction of enslavement at all, let alone from an African-American artist, writer. That sprawling cast just hadn't been done. 8 nights it airs.
Let me tell you, look, how old were you when Roots came out?
It was a seismic event. I've studied it.
You remember? No, it was seismic.
It was a seismic event.
Darlene, were we in middle school? I was in 7th grade. No, we were in middle school.
I was 5.
7th grade, because my history teacher, we would come and talk about it every day. It was so seismic. First of all, we watched it as a family, right? Yes. Second of all, it was mind-blowing.
Yes.
Third of all, it was tension when you came back into school, because we were in an integrated school, and people conducted themselves carefully because we were mad. We were really angry. We had not seen all of these different depictions of it. And it was incredibly shocking, but it was so powerful. And it was almost like an Ava DuVernay film in that the cast, the black cast, right, turned out to be this cast that we all came to know very well, but that many of us had not really seen. Right. Yeah. We didn't know LeVar Burton. We didn't know Maud Sinclair. Yeah. We didn't know all these people, but they became
even Luke Gossett, a lot of wonderful people in it.
These famous white actors.
They were already famous.
They were already
That's how they got it made.
But now we were seeing them. I mean, kudos to them, seriously, for taking on, for America's dads to take on the role of these odious, terrible slave masters, which was actually really, really, but that was a powerful message of the film. But I think that's really important, and you do some of that in your film. You have some famous white actors in your films
I
too.
do.
That I think that's important.
Well, that's the whole thing, white actors of note who, allow themselves or volunteer or want to be in films in which they know they're going to be playing the part of something that's terrible.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do, and I've worked with a lot of actors in that capacity. And so, but the thing about Roots is that it was television, and now television is the king category, I would say. I mean,
That's what I'm saying,
back then television was, TV was, film was the king category. So it's television, it's 8 nights.
Do we sit for 8 nights in a row?
Yes, 8 nights, and it starts out and it just grows. The ratings grow every night. It becomes this phenomenon that kind of sweeps the country night by night by night, and they are sending reporters out to black neighborhoods. They're sending reporters to white neighborhoods. When you look at the press that was around it, it took the country
huge.
by storm. Yeah. James Baldwin wrote, once more?
77.
Yeah.
Okay.
James Baldwin wrote in the New York Times, I always remember, he said, Roots is a study in conscience and consequences. He said it's about the perpetuation of a people. He said that it shows how a generation can doom the next or liberate the next. And I mean, you got Baldwin writing about Roots in the New York Times. I mean, this is a major event. And but it changed America.
It did.
It changed America. There was a movie called Holocaust.
Yes.
That really illuminated for people in ways that wasn't being reconciled with at the time what the Holocaust was. And actually, the word Holocaust was not associated with the Jewish experience,
Well, to the 50s.
a Nazi experience, until that show. So the Holocaust doesn't mean necessarily that period in history. Holocaust, there's an African Holocaust, there are all kinds of Holocausts. But that movie called Holocaust, American people and the world started to call the Holocaust. It came from a movie, Inconvenient Truth.
And what those two things have but what those two things have in common before you get to Inconvenient Truth, Holocaust and Roots, is that when I can remember, and I'm sure some of you in here remember that, slavery was something to kind of be ashamed of. Now people are like, I am the great, great child of slaves and sharecroppers. That was not something that you said. If somebody said that your family were slaves, we were fighting. That was part of the dozens, right? And the same with the Holocaust, that very often people who are victims of terrible violence like that have shame about it. And so when you meet with older Jewish families, they will tell you that, we didn't really talk about it. You didn't talk about it because there was that sense of shame. And it was that Holocaust show in the 1970s and Roots in the 1970s that freed up both populations to be able to talk about these set of atrocities that happened to them without shame and with pride. To me, that when you say that's TV, that it's mind-blowing, but that really did happen. That these two experiences, televised experience, opened us up in ways that were so important. Inconvenient Truth.
Well, it's art. We're here at the 14th Amendment Center. We're talking about, what these words mean and what the Constitution means. What is truth, and how do we make our way forward in the democratic imagination? And these television shows actually changed the trajectory of how American people thought about themselves, if you were black, if you were Jewish, and then about the other, if you saw them as that. Inconvenient Truth was a documentary at the time. Now docs are hot. At that time, docs were not docs. And if you watch Inconvenient Truth, it's a PowerPoint presentation. He made a PowerPoint presentation. They just shot a PowerPoint presentation. But
except for that moving polar bear.
A little animation, and it's a doc. So when you talk about form, television, doc, and so 50% of in places where that film, because it started, they were taking it around from theater to theater. In cities where the film showed, they saw a 50% increase in people electing to get rid of their carbon emissions. 50% just from a PowerPoint doc. And so it's, whether it's the way that we think about the LGBTQ community or the trans community. More recently, I can really see this in my own family, at a time where, older family members would say, oh, a cross-dresser, or it's a man, what is it, and all of that. And now you know, there's a real language, there's a vocabulary, there's something to put to it. Why? Because you saw it. You saw it in a story. You felt a character that made you understand this is a human being. And don't say it, and don't ask stupid questions, because you were able to watch Pose or Orange is the New Black. And so the power of the storytelling, you know, I feel like so passionately that it's needed to sit side by side with the law, with, you know, so that the law becomes alive in you. And so when Professor Brewer comes up to me and tells me, I show When They See Us in my class, to your law students, real lawyers, do you watch that movie? Wow, that makes me feel like we're on the right track, and that these two should be more married together. And so when you talk about a 14th Amendment Film Festival, that's exactly right. And the ways in which art and truth and information and law and all of that make their way into the democratic imagination, which is something you taught me about. She told me democratic imagination. I was like, ma'am, you're going to hear that everywhere from now on. It's all tied together, and you see that now. You see that now, and so that's why I'm so privileged and proud to be here.
I'm just thrilled. This is so wonderful, and you teed up perfectly what the next panel is going to be about, which is about art and democracy. But we have like 4 minutes left, and I know y'all came here just to see me, but but I would love it if any of you wanted to ask a question of Ms. DuVernay. I would happily allow that. Yeah. Oh, y'all gonna be shy now up and down?
Hi there.
Hi, how are you? I just want to say, I heard you're making a film called 14.
Something to consider. Something to consider. What was that? Are you getting tingles? I might be getting tingles. I might be getting them.
So my husband and I, Queen Sugar, that was our baby, and we spent really great time together, watching it each week and anticipating the next season. It was too long between the seasons. Remember, we get so irritated.
So sorry. I'm so sorry.
It was so long. It was so long. It was so beautiful. Like everything about it was so beautiful. I wondered, as an art person myself, did you think through like the beauty of the wedding, where everyone wore the white? And did you think through the beauty of all of those scenes?
Yes, that was one. Thank you so much. That was one where I wanted to be drenched in the beauty and majesty of black family life. And so from the very beginning, the first episode, the way that we framed it, the way, you know, when I chose what the Bordelon farm would look like, you know, the casting, what they wore, the Aunt Vi's kitchen, how Holly would love him some Aunt Vi, how like what she wore, everything. I spent so much time in curating every piece of it, so when people are happy with it, I'm very satisfied, because by that time I had been making some things for a while, so it wasn't about, let me just get the story out, I don't care how it looks. I knew some of the tools of the trade and really just wanted to drench it. I wanted it to look so delicious, you just want to lick the screen. That's what I told them in the pitch meeting. They were like, well, it's a little graphic, but okay. But that was my goal. I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We can take one more question.
Thank you. Hello. My name is Jahan Sharif. I was wondering, Ava, if you could say a little bit more about the international reception and how people talk to you from their particular lens, because I live abroad, and I think by being abroad, I've learned that the American story, actually, people take it and then incorporate it into their own experience. And so I was wondering, what have you heard from people who have watched your films, specifically in how they work in their own context?
Thank you for the question. That's so top of mind for me these days. So last year after Origin, I decided for the first time in my career since I started work when I was 15 that I would actually take some time off. And so I just, you know, I continued to work with Array but as a filmmaker, I wouldn't shoot anything for a year. And so I just decided to travel the world. So I ended up going to 17 countries and just had an extraordinary experience, but there was nowhere that I went. Now, I'm just walking down the street. No, but no, there's in some places, some folks will come up with me, but usually I was in an environment where it was known that I was a filmmaker, or I was in a black neighborhood, where folks would come up and I would kind of track what they would ask me about. So when someone comes up to me, I usually will think, oh, they're going to ask, this is a little girl, so she's going to say Wrinkle in Time. Or, oh, this person looks like a Selma. Or this person looks like a 13th. Or this person looks, I try to, just kind of guess. It was so all over the map, brother. It was crazy. I was in Sweden, and I was in Switzerland, and I was doing a talk, and a woman stood up. I mean, this audience had, it was maybe a 500-seater. I saw 5 black people. And a woman who was not black stood up in the middle, Swiss Miss, okay, stood up. They were so nice. They loved the work. They wanted to talk about Selma and 13th. I knew that. But then she stood up and she said, Ms. DuVernay, I just have one question that you haven't answered. And I would love it if you could just, tell me, is Ralph Angel that fine in person? Critical questions. So whether if I'm in Italy and they want to talk about when they see us because of issues that are happening there, I'm in Morocco, lots of questions about 13th, anywhere in Germany, a lot of Origin, India. We shot Origin there, but also When They See Us was really big in India for some reason. In South America, When They See Us was huge. Brazil, Colombia. You go there, it's all When They See Us. So it's really interesting how the different topics connect to different places around the world, but all folks are kind of focused on their own, like you say, their local experience, whatever they're feeling regionally, whether it's, police abuse, or it's dealing with the courts, or it's dealing with historical figures, or caste. What I found is somehow, although my work hasn't been widely distributed by the companies that are their official distributor, they found their way. Clean Sugar is huge in Africa. It never had an African distributor. It's never been officially distributed in Africa. I ask I go to different countries. Listen, I say, how did you get it? They feel embarrassed to tell me. I was like, tell me how you got it, or else I'll give it to you for free. I just want it out there. I would put all the work on YouTube right now if I could. That's my desire, is just for it to be seen. So there's no bigger joy that I had in my career than last year when I wasn't filming, when I went around the world and actually had the time to hear people talking to me about the films and the projects, and that'll help me on my next round. So thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So good to be with you. Thank you. Thank you.